What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik of the Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor. And I've been talking to you guys about expanding the coverage out a little bit beyond just boxing and talking combat sports. Period. We even talked about maybe doing some WWE, but I really want to talk about a mixed martial arts subject right now. Something I've been hearing a lot, seeing a lot, and is in regards to UFC bantamweight and flyweight champion. And I should preface that by saying UFC men's bantamweight and men's flyweight champion Henry Cejudo. Cejudo calls himself Triple C, 2 championships in the UFC, Olympic champion. I think at this point he has solidified his place as as an all-time great in the area of combat sports. I mean, he's done things that pretty much no one else has done. But what he's also done and what he's doing lately is he's calling out female fighters, and whether serious or not, he's calling them out for fights, right? Now, we've seen that happen before. We've seen their loose conversation about Ronda Rousey fighting Floyd Mayweather and all these other fights. We've all even seen Claressa Shields recently call out Gennady Golovkin and Errol Spence and Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, different fighters like that, right? But Cejudo, let me just give a little bit of a background for anybody that doesn't know. Cejudo he gets a lot of credit, and I think somewhat deserved credit for somewhat saving the men's flyweight division. He fought Demetrius Johnson earlier in his career. Demetrius Johnson pretty much dominated the fight, ended up stopping him. Came back and had a rematch with Demetrius Johnson, won a very close decision over him, and won the men's flyweight title, ended Demetrius Johnson's long reign as the champion of that division. The fight could have gone a lot of different ways. I actually scored it for Demetrius Johnson, but I won't call it the worst decision ever for Cejudo to get the victory. But Cejudo is at a point in his career where he's really trying to maximize on his marketability and his ability to monetize his talent, which is a significant talent, right? He's 32 years old. He'll be 33 in February. And he wants to get paid. And I cannot fault him for that. But what he has somewhat turned himself into outside of the octagon, because in the octagon, he's a monster. But what he's somewhat turned himself into is a bit of a clown act, right? He shows up dressed as different stuff at the weigh-ins, and I'm not totally opposed to that stuff. I'm not. I really am not. If you have some charisma, and someone like Ian Cutelaba shows up in green paint and plays himself as the Hulk before every fight. It's cool. I think it's out there. It's crazy. It's cool. There's an Asian fighter, a boxer, who has adopted the same type of thing. When Chris Cyborg fights, she adorns herself in the colors of the Brazilian flag. There's fighters who do this kind of thing. It's something about when Henry Cejudo does it, though. It just seems really hokey and just really just lame. But that's an opinion. Doesn't mean he should stop. But I believe he should stop calling out female fighters. I think it makes him look desperate, not as if he actually thinks he's going to get the fights. I don't think he thinks that's actually going to happen. I would hope he doesn't think that that's going to happen, at least not in his lifetime. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility overall moving forward. But I think for right now, I don't think that we're at that place yet where someone would set up that sort of fight, especially not a promotion as big as the UFC. But I think what it does, it just makes it look like he's saying things just to get attention. And I know that has become a path to popularity and polarization. And people have been able to ride that sort of game plan to increase revenue and increase marketability. And I know that at the end of the day, a lot of that that's kind of the thing, right? But I've always been a proponent of at least having an off switch. Have something that you just won't do, right? So I mean, just take a look at this, man. He's literally, you can't read this cert, but he's calling himself the intergender world champion. And it's really clear that this stuff is being done for attention, for to stir up a conversation. He's calling everybody out. He calls out Uriah Faber. Now, Uriah Faber is a Hall of Famer already. Just came back and had a stunning victory, knocking out Ricky Simone. But I think everybody knows that Uriah Faber, at this stage of his career, that fight with Henry Cejudo, for Cejudo to even call Faber out, he's basically clout chasing because he can't believe, and he knows that this is not a really significant test for him. He's looking to have big fights where he can get big paydays, and I don't have a problem with that. But I do think that he's stooping too low, calling out the likes of this lady, Valentina Shevchenko, who is a fantastic fighter, right? She is the UFC flyweight champion. She's a fantastic fighter. I was in Chicago when she scored this insane head kick knockout against Jessica I, and one of the nasty, scariest knockouts I've seen in person. Right? It was pretty vicious, but it's a man versus woman fight. And overall, I don't like the concept of that. I don't like the concept of that for several reasons, right? I don't like it when female fighters call out male fighters, and I certainly don't like it when male fighters call out female fighters. Here's the thing. What if you look at it from Henry Cejudo's standpoint, and he gets this fight with Shevchenko, and I mean, say he just destroys her, right? He just destroys her. It's not going to be a legacy building victory for him. Nobody's going to say, now that really solidifies Henry Cejudo as the best smaller weight fighter in the world, one of the best fighters in the world. Did you see what he did to Shevchenko? Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say that. He gets in there and he loses to Shevchenko. Now people are going to say, you lost to a female fighter, which almost every female fighter will tell you, because they have trained with guys, that there is a difference. Ronda Rousey said it. If you see a recent interview with Jermaine Durandamy, she just appeared on Ariel Helwani's show. She says she doesn't think that that men and women should ever fight, especially not mixed martial arts. She did say that she thought it was a kickboxing match between Cejudo and Shevchenko, that she thinks Shevchenko would probably win. I don't know about that either. I don't know about that because, and I understand where Durandamy is coming from with that. She's saying that because of Cejudo's wrestling, because he's a man, physically stronger, bone structure is different, he would manhandle, no pun intended, Shevchenko in grappling exchanges, which I think, in my opinion, goes without saying, doesn't give Henry Cejudo any extra pat on the back or put a feather in his cap from that standpoint. It's just fairly obvious. And if you go into a fight with Shevchenko and it's a kick, it doesn't matter, man. To me, it's what I would chalk up to as a silly diversion. And it's just not attractive to me. That fights should be attractive, right? And fights should be, when you go and there's a matchup announced, right? When UFC tweets out that official image, right, that shows that a fight is going to happen, it should get you to a place where you're like rubbing your hands together, like, yeah, that's going to be a great fight. And you feel like that because you feel like both fighters bring something to the table, and you're like, well, she's going to do this or he's going to do this, depending on who's fighting or whatever. You get that feeling. I don't get that feeling from seeing a matchup screen that has Henry Cejudo and Valentina Shevchenko on it. It feels dirty. It feels ridiculous. And this is not an equality conversation, in my opinion. It's not, because equality, in my opinion, is a women's champion competing against other women and dominating, and then us giving her just as much credit for her doing her job as well as she does it, as you see a man getting for dominating his division. That's what equality is, in my opinion. I think that Valentina Shevchenko is one of the best fighters pound for pound in the world. And you know why? Because of how dominant she is against the competition that she faces. That's the only reason That's the only way to gauge, right? So it's just like, it's almost like weight classes, right? You have weight classes for a reason. One weight class, the fighters that fight in that particular weight class are bigger. So they're stronger than a fighter in a weight class that's smaller. I don't say, oh, well, you know, Henry Cejudo should have to fight Stipe Miocic. I don't think, and that's obviously a more drastic. I wouldn't even say Henry Cejudo should be able to take on Kamaru Usman, or Henry Cejudo should be able to take on Habib Nurmagomedov. I don't say that because there is a weight class and that division is there for a reason. But I'm not going to say that Henry Cejudo is not as great if he dominates flyweight and bantamweight as Nurmagomedov is if he dominates lightweight. No, if they both dominate, they're both equal, and that's where, to me, you make that judgment. And just for him, like, I don't, I'm not throwing him under the bus necessarily for calling. It's just lame, man. It's just a lame attempt, in my opinion, to get clout and to get some attention on you. And I know that earning the dollars is the bottom line. But at some point, don't we have to have an off switch? Don't we have to have something that we're like, all right, well, you know what? That I won't do just to get attention. That I won't do just to get some clout. And to me, it doesn't seem like Henry Cejudo necessarily has that. So it's not something I don't dig it. I really think he should stop uh calling out female fighters. It's just a bad look overall. But that's my take. I want to know what you guys have to say in the comments. Let me know. I appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.